August 12, 2025, will make it 51 years since the government administration building and the lieutenant governor's residence on Front Street, which was located above it, burned. The fire also damaged two adjacent buildings, Great Bay Store, belonging to the Carty family, and the other one, Phillipsburg Utilities. Besides the buildings, the fire also destroyed a great deal of the government's administrative documents, including more than half of its historical archive. Most of the administration of Sint Maarten and the other Windward Islands was lost. This include all basic data, all figures, all official documents, the complete tax registration, and written declarations. The fire occurred. It was around 9:45 p.m. on Monday, 12, 1974, when persons walking by the government building noticed that it was on fire. The police and fire department were immediately notified.
The fire wreaked havoc on the mostly wooden building. Upon arrival of the police and fire department, the roof was already engulfed in the flames. Firemen and volunteers from Great Bay and Marigot battled that fire for almost 4 hours before they could get it under control. By 1 o'clock in the morning, all that was left was the smoldering frame of the building. There was a moment of panic when the acting Lieutenant Governor R.O. van Delden arrived on the scene, as he was unable to find his 17-year-old son. It was suspected that he still might be in the burning building. Fortunately, he had gone out with some friends and was not in the building. For a moment, it looked like the fire would spread and possibly burn down most, if not the entire Front Street. As a precaution, persons started to wet down the other buildings. They even started to evacuate the St. Rose Hospital and the Sint Maarten's home for the elderly. Fortunately, the breeze was light that evening. From the onset, arson was suspected and not ruled out. According to reports in the newspapers, eyewitnesses had seen someone running away from the scene shortly after the fire was detected. That person was also allegedly seen tampering with the fire hydrants. Some reports suggest that when the fire truck arrived on the scene, there was no water. That same day, around 1 a.m., the police picked up the UFA union leader Wilhelmus Hayes, also known as Willie Hayes, for questioning in connection with the fire. After questioning, he was released due to insufficient evidence to prolong his detention. You may be asking yourself, why Willie Hayes? What did Hayes have to do with this? On the May 30th, 1969, 5 years before the fire, union leaders Papa Godet and Willie Hayes of the Frente Obrero Labor Front led an uprising on Curacao, which resulted in the city capital being partially burned down. In an effort to prevent a similar uprising on Sint Maarten, an anti-riot squad consisting of 25 police officers from Curacao was deployed to Sint Maarten on an ALM charter flight. The fully armed 25-man unit, along with several officials, were met by the acting Lieutenant Governor Van Delden at the airport, together with Commissioners Sam Hazel and Joe Richardson. Fortunately, there was no need for them to use any force, as they did not encounter any rioting. About a week later, they returned back to Curaçao, as there was no need for their presence. Before the fire, there was some serious labor tensions and unrest at the harbor. The United Federation of the Windward Antilles, UFA, a labor union led by Willie Hayes, represented the workers of the Curaçao Pioneering Company, a cold storage fish company operating the harbor. On August 10, 1974, negotiations for a new collective labor agreement, CLA, ended in a disagreement resulting in a strike. 2 days later, on August 12th, the same day of the fire, matters escalated when the Curaçao Pioneering Company got permission to hire strikebreakers to offload a ship loaded with fish intended for their cold storage. One of the strikebreakers, who crossed the picket line, was pulled from a truck and beaten by some strikers. During the course of that day, several meetings were held in an attempt to resolve the issue. One of those meetings was between the labor union UFA and the acting lieutenant governor. The meeting ended in a standoff, which led to the acting lieutenant governor ordering the police to prohibit the strikers from entering the harbor property in Pointe Blanche. It did not take long before rumors started circulating about what caused the fire. The main rumor was that the fire was set by people associated with the UFA as an act of rebellion against government authorities. However, it took the local authorities more than a year to investigate this matter, and on May 24, 1975, Willie Hayes was arrested and later charged as an accomplice in the fire that burned down the government building. On June 26, 1975, Willie Hayes appeared in court to face the charges filed against him. However, the judge ruled that the charges were not legally and convincingly proven, and Willie Hayes was acquitted and set free. The public prosecutor immediately appealed the ruling. On October 14, 1975, the Court of Appeals convened on Sint Maarten. This time around, the prosecutors brought out their three-star witnesses, namely Frank Usan, Edmund Canagieter, also known as Mandola or Rocket, and Gustavus Nisbeth, also known as Tavi. During the hearing, Mandola testified that Willie Hayes had given him orders to burn down the government building. The other two also testified against Hayes. Hayes maintained his innocence and denied all the accusations. At the end of the trial on October 14, 1975, the judge sentenced Willie Hayes to 3.5 years in prison, while the Frank, Mandola, and Tavi were sentenced to 2.5 years. The new government building on the Clem Labega Square was constructed and inaugurated in 1978.